Before we start, ICYMI, I'm on Letterboxd now. Please check it out, link in description. Oh, look at this idiot. Starting the video with a plug. What a douche. Previously, I said this. Consider giving a like and subscribe, and I'll cover Season 2 and onward when I feel like it. Surprise, I already felt like it. So, how to describe the second season of Spongebob SquarePants? Supreme? Sufficient? Stupendous? Okay, enough alliterations. Season 2 is often regarded as SpongeBob's best season. To me at least, the thing is, this season is funny. Filled to the brim with jokes that are big, scary, and pink. I see people quote this season all the time. Along with the other classic seasons, of course, but this one especially. It begs the question, is there a universally appealing form of comedy? Yes, and it's called Tom and Jerry. No, there honestly isn't. I'm sure some people don't like jokes such as Squidward reference to George Carlin and Sailor Mouth. Somewhere out there, some guy was probably offended by the perfume department joke in Shanghai. And SpongeBob's childlike tantrum in Grandma's Kisses was just unpleasant for me. But hey, some people probably laughed at that, I don't judge. Bottom line is, no joke can please everyone. But do you only need to be funny to be good? When watching SpongeBob, I'm there to laugh. Not to be taught a thought-provoking lesson that changes my point of view on life, not to cry until whatever I ate last comes out the other end, just to laugh. SpongeBob had already laid a concrete foundation for what it wanted to be in Season 1, but here comes questions such as what to do with this concrete foundation that arise with the second season. Again, I want to remind you, even though SpongeBob established a status quo better than most shows, the show was not planning on becoming a mega-conglomerate unofficial mascot of Nickelodeon. Way back when, it had the pure intention of just being one of the Nicktoons. For a second, let's go across the multiverse. Imagine that Steven Hillenburg got his wish, and the world he created ended comfortably in 2004, after the movie. Imagine if the show that ran through multiple decades and the foreseeable future was Rugrats or the Fairly OddParents. Okay, those are the two worst possible examples, but you know what I mean. SpongeBob is a comedy series, and it has been for 18 more years than planned. Or, at least, it should have been. And Season 2 is funny, in most of its episodes. But was that all it needed? Or could it have used more to go from? Let's go over the reviewing style. Every episode gets a review in 10 words or less, a rating from 1 to 10, 1 being abysmal and 10 being nearly flawless, and we'll cap it off with further in-depth discussions about the best episodes of the season and the quote-unquote worst. Let's laugh it up and maybe if we're lucky find an artist unknown. It's time for every episode of SpongeBob SquarePants Season 2 reviewed in 10 words or less. Let's play! I guess it's not so hard after all. Does Squidward have trust issues or severe anxiety? Have you ever seen anything so ugly yet so proud? The Control Freak Crab. An episode worthy of an award. Wow. That was fine. I could go for some pie right about now. I don't have a joke about ravioli. Sorry. If you know, you know. Bro, my Krabby Patties taste like colors. Dang it, Patrick! Oh heck yeah, I love Squid Game. Wait, Sandy hibernates? So why does she celebrate Christmas? Balut stealers are mentally ill and should be executed. Gee, almost every lyric in that song ends in E. Wow, Sandy put on a few. In her sleep.
Never mind, I heard what I just said.
A clever ending twist in an unpleasant episode. I'm pretty sure most teachers would actually do this. Kevin may have been impressed, but I wasn't especially. The least talked about Mermaid Man episode. Why? Well, if you can't laugh at yourself, everyone has their own talents. When do we get to see the vaping peanut? The perfume department. The perfume department never changes. Bathing Pets in a nutshell. Without You is such a simple yet sad song. Insert doodlebop noises here. That's a dumb place to keep a photo. Peak fiction. Still not as good as pizza delivery. I didn't know you could sling hash. I ship it. I'll rate this episode later. A cautionary reminder that intentionally unlikable characters are still unlikable. Holy f***, this episode is hilarious. Why does no one talk about this masterpiece? What a sketchy butthole Krabs turned into. Now remember, this is a friendly competition. I'd want to go to the Krusty Krab Fun Fair. SpongeBob is such a loyal friend. And that was the marathon. If you watched the last video, you'll remember that I said most of pre-movie SpongeBob's lesser episodes are either not especially bad, or bad in the same ways, and if so, there will be no bottom 3. However, I also said that any episodes I actively disliked would receive a full discussion. And what do you know, I hate one episode in this season. Let's get it out of the way so I can gush about how good the rest of the season is. Number 1 worst, I'm with Stupid. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I'm gonna say it. This episode is not only actively damaging to the classic era of SpongeBob, but it is undeniably on par with some of the show's worst episodes. And while I'm with Stupid isn't the worst of the worst, it comes close. SpongeBob sees Patrick in distress because his parents are coming over the next day, fearing that they'll think he's dumb. That said, Spongy promises Patrick that he'll act stupid in front of them to make him look smart by comparison. It all goes as planned, with Spongy deliberately being a doofus to Patrick's parents. And Pat should know what Spongy is doing, and why. However, he ends up being there laughing right along with his mom and pop. And here's where, if this episode was a person, I would snap their neck. SpongeBob tries to explain his act to Patrick, which he should know. He had a conversation with Patrick. And I know Patrick is meant to have the brain capacity of an actual C-star, but that doesn't excuse his rude behavior towards his friend, and it is certainly not enough to make himself and his parents constantly insulting Spongy pleasant to watch in the slightest. Because honestly, is this really in character for Pat? There are episodes where he pushes Spongy around, but these two are more often than not the best of friends, especially early on in the show. Spongy's intent is purely to relieve his friend of his troubles, but this isn't okay. It hurts. It makes you pity SpongeBob. Like I said in the last video, intentionally writing a character as a jerk is still writing a character as a jerk. The stars just bully Spongy, putting him down, laughing at him, the entire meanie starter pack. To the point of full insanity, the episode literally shows the stars laughing in Spongy's face, mentally crowding him doing so, until he just screams in agony and darts out the house. And I'm losing it too. It's technically a good job at making me feel Spongy's pain, but I just feel bad. I want him to do literally anything else, because whatever it is, it's gotta be better than being stuck with these jerkwads. Chop everything off with the twist at the end that makes no sense whatsoever, and you have one giant mess that truly stands out from the rest of the season for all the wrong reasons. Please, if it happens you haven't seen this episode yet, don't. Glad that's out of the way. Let's do the top 3 now. Number 3 best, Sailor Mouth. You knew this one was gonna be on here, didn't you?
I think we all know where this is going, so let's just skip to the end.
No, I'll attempt to bring something moderately new to the table, while also geeking out about the jokes you already know I'm about to geek out about. Spongy learns a new word. According to Patrick, it's a spicy word that you can use to spice up your sentences. But the more they go around using it, it causes people around them deep disturbance. Krabs reprimands the two of them, stating that it's a no-no word. They then spend the day avoiding the word at all costs. I find this episode totally relatable. The way Spongy and Patrick continually use the colorful language really sells the feeling of being a kid who just discovered swears. It's foreign to them, so maybe it sounds funny. Sometimes it makes them feel more like grown-ups for using it. Not to mention that once you discover a new word, you realize how much the people around you use it. When I'm around a potty mouth, I start swearing too. Ever since I was a baby. And it's guaranteed to leave one in stitches with just how accurately it portrays children cursing, with the scene where Spongy talks on the loudspeaker, as well as the tattletale "I'm gonna tell mom you said crap" gimmick with lines like, "Oop, you said number 11. And the other thing I wanted to mention, back on the topic of the loudspeaker scene, the joke is used again, and again. Most of the time, repetition isn't funny. But let me clarify. In my own studies of comedy, I've struck a discovery. Humor is, in short, unexpected. You wouldn't expect these characters from a children's show to cuss. Of course, it was censored, although I have heard they did say the actual words and then replace them with a dolphin noise, as per usual with censorship. But anyway, the unexpectedness is what makes it funny to see. Let me bring in a time when attempted humor fell flat, primarily because it was repeated. The throat-clearing gag from Choir Boys. That joke is dumb. While it is unexpected, it's not a good joke. Remember how I said that no joke can please everyone? Someone was probably appalled by the implied profanity in a show with a young target demographic. But in Choir Boys, the throat-clearing gag is long and padded, happens 3 separate times, and plays out in the same way each time. It's not a character doing something that throws you for a loop. It's just Squidward furiously coughing for a minute 3 times. Everyone clears their throat now and again. It's socially acceptable and not out of the ordinary, so I guess you could expect it. The scene where Spongy talks on the Krusty Krab loudspeaker is actually funny. Yes, he constantly drops bombs, but it's all in one scene. Not to mention, the icing on the cake is that we see the customers' reactions. That's a nice tidbit of variation. And yes, we see characters swearing more throughout the episode, but they all happen in different ways. We see number 11 slip out of Spongy's mouth while he and Pat are playing Eels and Escalators, and Pat gets ready to tell on Krabs. And then we learn that Krabs cusses too, which leads to a little bit of punishment for all of them from Mama Krabs. Doesn't that sound more engaging than Sponge and Pat going to the Krusty Krab to swear on an intercom, and then get kicked out? And then go to the Chum Bucket to do the same, and then get kicked out of there? And then find some other place to do it a third time without at least learning a lesson in the end? Doesn't that sound like something out of season 6 and 7? Ultimately, this all is the key ingredient to the episode's rousing success at being a barrel of laughs. This episode stands as a poster child for how to make a single gimmick a basis of an episode, and I love it. Number 2 best, Artist Unknown. Yes, I put this above Sailor Mouth and I have my reasons. This is among the show's most underrated episodes. Now more than ever, I feel spoken to on a deeper level by this episode. I may have said that when watching SpongeBob I want to laugh at it, not to be taught a life lesson, but I can't help but feel enlightened by this episode. Squidward holds an art class, but all his supposed students were in the wrong place, and the only one who knows he's in the right place and is going to take the class is Spongy. Squid is unamused, but goes with it because he has no choice. But when Spongy proves to be surprisingly good at art, Squid gets jealous and is critical of Spongy just to have authority over him. This episode is funny, but actually kinda sad. A video I totally recommend you guys check out is made to express this video on this one, link in description. And I will draw, no pun intended, a few of my points from it, but bear with me. As a young writer and artist myself, I felt this one. But what this episode pulls off in a way that so many other episodes of most other shows just didn't, is showing why so many people spend their lives in fear of judgment. While a number of people take classes on certain subjects to improve in said subjects, I think I speak for many when I say people also major in things because they consider themselves good at them, which is what SpongeBob did. Trust me when I say that I've had to deal with teachers who, like how Squidward was in this episode, wanting to have authority over a student and thinking that means better than them at their respective subject. And while sometimes they are more skilled at the student, they often have a more fixed and rigid mindset as a result. And just because kids have that naivete and impression that adults are always right, it can be soul-crushing when a teacher discourages you for outdoing their expectations and tells you to be worse at it so they can teach you. I assure you, even teachers who know that's a terrible teaching method use it. If you read To Kill a Mockingbird, you know what I mean. And while students, especially me, aren't typically better at a subject than a teacher, it's the mentality that makes the difference in the end. Squidward refuses to see the potential in SpongeBob. He's just being nitpicky. SpongeBob, on the other hand, knows why he's in Squidward's art class and what he wants to do with it. And when Squid wrings out all of Spongy's self-esteem and leaves him out to dry, Spongy goes off to the dump, feeling as if he belongs with the rest of the trash because Squidward manipulated him into feeling like it. By the time Squid goes to get Spongy back, Spongy has been molded into this literally by-the-book student with his artistic personality erased like pencil. And even if this is kinda meant to be a joke, it's a cautionary tale on the difference between cynical versus authentic criticism. Authentically critiquing one else's work is sensible, and a lot more open-minded and genuine. Whereas how Squid treated Spongy, it was out of jealousy, disrespectful whether or not he was trying to be, and led to potentially dangerous guilt. And Squidward going berserk mad as a result of SpongeBob's individuality laying in ruins is the cherry on top of this whole thing. Like your usual great SpongeBob episode, it's charmingly funny, but has the added benefits of being a great lesson for students and teachers alike, and being surprisingly thematically rich. And the number 1 best episode of SpongeBob SquarePants Season 2, and a surprise to no one, is Band Geeks. Okay, I know what I said in my 10 words or less review of this episode. First, I'll get this out of the way. I do consider Pizza Delivery the better episode compared to this one, biased or unbiased. However, I still absolutely love this episode. While Pizza Delivery is my all-time fave, this episode is the show's magnum opus. A rare moment where everything just works so well on so many incredible levels. Much like a band itself, you see and feel everything progressively come together and eventually culminate in a beautiful ultimate performance. But you know what they say, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Despise is too nice of a term for how I feel about this statement. Of all famous quotes, I've never heard one I disagree with stronger. Oftentimes, the journey is rough and sucks. And to me, it's a matter of whether the destination is worth the journey. Luckily, this episode is proof of that. The finale is by far the best part, and I get the intent of the statement I'm dissecting, that how you got to where you are is as important as where you are itself. But my opinion is that if the setups make the payoff feel more grand than anything that came before it, then the payoff is more grand than anything that came before it. And to be brutally honest, I don't have much to say. But a little simplicity is all this episode needed. All the Bikini Bottomites join the band, regardless of whether they're in charge of a restaurant, in charge of a school, or just a random citizen. Everyone now being on equal footing, except for the impatient Squidward leading this joint. And it leads to so much comedy. What I do actually love in this one, even above all the jokes, is that Squidward takes time to get to his limit this time around. And when he finally does, the band geeks learn their lesson and come back in the end to surprise Squidward. It's not only kind of heartwarming in that respect, but the ending is just incredible. The choice of song is fitting, the scale suddenly goes massive, the sweet victory is so incredibly rewarding. Everything just works from start to finish in this incredible episode. This episode's legacy is this show's legacy, and while Artist Unknown is probably my favorite episode of the season for its lesson stuff, Band Geeks is simply the absolute best episode of Season 2. That's all there is on this list. The comments should be open to tell me your own opinion, and my Season 3 video is probably already on the way. Consider giving a like and subscribe. It's 1 a.m. as I'm writing this script, so I'm going to bed. Have a great rest of your day.